Good evening, folks, family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth to another episode of Disguise Coverage, part of the Cover One Sports Network. And Disguise Coverage is the only podcast, I promise you, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on the old Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, ANT. This intro maybe is a little more subdued than normal. It's not because I'm sad or because I'm in like a bad mood or because I'm down, but because I'm very focused. Because this week is a tremendously important week. This is the biggest week of the year for the Buffalo Bills because it is the playoffs. It is the wild card round of the playoffs. And if the Bills advance to the divisional round, that will be the most important game of the year for the Buffalo Bills. And in that regard and in that theme of a huge episode, I wanted to bring a guest on for this show. And if you're watching live with us now, you will have already seen who that guest is because his logo is up on the screen. Or if you have paid attention to any type of promo for this episode or the episode description, if you're listening or watching anything like that, you will have figured out who this guest is. My guest tonight, Mr. Bruce Nolan, host of the Bruce Exclusive, also host of Food for Thought, also a backer of the idea that dogs are better than people, a fantastic guest, friend of mine, friend of the show, and we discussed off air, I believe this is around the 1-year anniversary of your first appearance on the show because you were here last year around this time for the first time to help me break down some Bills Colts stuff heading into Wild Card weekend last year. So how do you feel? Anniversary time? Big week? What's going on in the Bruce world?
Well, I mean, I didn't buy you anything and you didn't buy me anything. So
actually, that's not true. I wanted to send it to you, but I don't know where you live because,
sorry. I mean, I have Venmo. Bruce Nolan has a specific Venmo. I have a Venmo set up under a pseudonym. Yes, I do.
Of course you do.
So that Bruce Nolan could, because of course I do. Right. But also the fact that I'm still welcome back after a year, that'll tell you pretty much all you need to know. He had me on, we went through an entire year and he still decided, knowing everything he knows, to continue to have me back on. So it just speaks to really the kind of guy that Anthony really is.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. You and I are, I forget what episode we decided this, but we are the Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde of this Bills content community. You are the Hyde. I am the Poyer. I believe you claimed Hyde first, so that's how we ended up with that. But you were tremendous, fantastic. And, we were talking offline. For those of you who don't know, Bruce is a very busy man in life and with podcasting things. And with the move of Disguise Coverage to Wednesdays at 7, there was a bit of a clashing when it came to our two schedules based on how Bruce does his shows, his multiple shows, and his prep work and all that stuff. But he was able to find some time for me this week, and I was tremendously grateful and appreciative because, Bruce, I don't know if you know this, and I feel like you probably don't because I just got the scoop a couple minutes ago. Did you know the Buffalo Bills play the New England Patriots this weekend in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs?
Well, thanks for completely blowing up my prep work, Anthony. Sorry. I mean, what's the point? You know what? I'm out of here. I'm gone. Bye. You know what? Bye.
And he leaves. That was really good. You sold that really well. It was really very much like you're walking away, almost like the person who walks behind the couch and pretends like they're going downstairs.
Oh yeah, it fools my dog every time.
Dogs never get it, man.
Every time.
Or when the one that always fools my dog is the one where you just like look outside and you just go like, oh, and that dog me is like, what? Like, what's out there? And then they run to the glass door and they're like, oh, nothing's out there.
Yes, the what was that trick works every single time. Every time he's doing something you don't want him to do, you just go, what was that? And he goes, what do you mean? What was that? Do I have to kill something? I'll tell you what, you know what? I have protected you from the garbage man and the mailman for so many years, and still you remain ungrateful.
Dogs, man, but they're great and they're better than people. And I second your notion on that.
Absolutely,
we both know that. People. We are in agreement on that regard. We're both pet people. We both like dogs. We both like the Buffalo Bills. And man, huge game this week. Again, because of course it's the playoffs. It's the wild card round, but it is against, I know Brady's gone and the Bills won the AFC East last year, but I would still say the New England Patriots are the arch rival of the Buffalo Bills. There's a lot of bad blood for this fan base, for Bills Mafia, and the win here would just, I think, mean the world, and a loss here would be absolutely devastating, absolutely soul-crushing to Bills Mafia. Honestly, probably to this team as well, because they know what this game means. They know who the Patriots are and what they stand for and all that, and what the expectations are for this Buffalo Bills team. And within that vein, within that theme of this game, playoffs, football in general, but especially playoffs are all about matchups. So what Bruce and I wanted to do tonight, we've each got 3 matchups. They can be as broad, and as big. It could just be like, oh, Bills defense versus Patriots offense, or it could be as granular as possible. And it could just be like, Stephon Diggs versus JC Jackson, or anything like that of that nature, all the way from both ends of the spectrum. We're going to each give our top 3, might have some overlap, might not. And we're going to talk about why those matchups are the most important matchups for this game, why they will decide the winner of this game in one way or the other in terms of who gets the edge in those matchups and who has the advantage. And Bruce, because you are my guest, you, of course, will go first. I changed the graphic up there. The graphic now says the matchups that will decide Bills versus Patriots. So, Bruce, give me your number 1, your top, your most important matchup for this game that will decide who wins the Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots wildcard matchup.
The back 7 of the Buffalo Bills defense against the extra edge gaps of the New England Patriots.
Ooh, I like it. A little broad, but also granular at the same time. Well done. I like it. Well done.
You know what the New England Patriots are going to do on offense.
Yes.
You've seen them the first time, you saw them the second time. What they want to do is they want to add additional bodies to the offensive line. They want to create extra gaps on the edge, and they want to run the ball at the perimeter and test your corners and your linebackers and your safeties' ability to run, chase, and tackle consistently for 60 minutes. Because really, as they proved in the first one, you only need to screw up a couple times for that to be a significant winning plan.
Yes.
If you break a big one, if the rest of them go for 3.5 yards a carry, they're fine with that. And so for the Buffalo Bills, it's about consistently making sure that you are up to the challenge and that you're not getting outflanked, you are not getting outgapped, and you are not getting out physical. And in the cold weather, just getting whacked and whacked and whacked over and over and over again with in sub-zero temperatures from 245-pound backs, that's gonna matter. But it's not just about the physicality. It's also about the ability to be where you say you're going to be when you say you're going to be there.
Yes.
And the ability of a safety, and I said this on Twitter not too long ago, one of the worst things you can ask a safety to do is to come from depth and have to make a 2-gap decision in the run game. It's just, it really is an unbelievably difficult thing that we just don't talk about unless you played defensive back or you coach defensive backs. Sometimes you don't quite get it, right? When you're running full speed downhill on someone else who is running full speed and picking a gap, and if you pick wrong, you look like an idiot and you get burned for a 60-yard touchdown, and you've already been smacked in the face 34 times by this same play over and over again. It's just not a fun time.
And people watching TV are just like, well, why didn't he come up and make the tackle? Right. How come he missed? And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, especially when you're too high. When you're too high and you're slicing across, and it's just a whole thing. Anyway,
it's not easy.
But the point is that the Buffalo Bills are going to sell out to stop the run. But selling out to stop the run is just about getting the bodies in the right spot. You still have to come up and make the tackle, and you still have to be in the right gap at the right time. And so we know what the New England Patriots are going to want to do on offense. We know what they want to do. I have a very, very, very hard time imagining they're going to come out with something that looks very different than what they did before. Because Bill Belichick knows what his team is. And what his team is a team that is on paper not as good as the Buffalo Bills. Sorry, it's just the way it is.
No, very fair.
And they have a deficiency at quarterback relative to Josh Allen. Mac Jones had a perfectly reasonable year. No one should look at Mac Jones and say he had a bad rookie year. He was clearly head and shoulders, far and away, the best rookie quarterback based on sample size.
Yeah.
But he can't do the things Josh Allen can do. And so when you do that, you want to minimize the amount of times Josh Allen holds the ball. You want to minimize the amount of drives they have. You want to increase margin of error for the defense. You want to decrease margin of error for the offense. And all this happens by running the ball. And so specifically, we've noticed them having some success over the last 2 matchups running the ball off tackle. And so I do wonder if Michael Onwenu is ended up being forced into the right tackle role, because historically he's their 6th offensive lineman. But because of injuries up front, he may be a starting right tackle. So we don't know. He might be a starting left tackle. You got Trent Brown, all that stuff like this. But who's the 6th lineman going to be? Are they going to be as big of a threat as Onwenu was? Because I think that he was He's a sixth lineman for the Patriots that's good enough to start on most teams. They are the reason why they go six offensive linemen is not just because they want it. It's because they have the bodies to do it.
Yeah, they're
Like
deep.
that's their best offensive matchup. If they take a wide receiver off the field and decide to put a sixth offensive lineman on it, they win the talent exchange in that transition. And so I think they'll still roll out six, but it might not be quite as good as it was previously when Onwenu was the sixth. But I don't see a snowball's chance in Hades that they're going to come out and look markedly different. So to me, it's going to be about the back seven of the Bills versus the extra gaps specifically on the edges that are created by the Patriots in the run game through our extra offensive linemen.
I like where your head is at. I like that perspective. I love the idea of bringing up that, well, not the idea of, but, bringing up how hard it is to come from depth and make plays, which is why part of the reason why Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are so valuable in this defense. All jokes aside, their ability to disguise coverage for the Buffalo Bills, but their ability to come from two high looks and come up and make plays in the run game from depth. It's not an easy thing. It's so much easier to just be around the line of scrimmage and be in the box and make a play versus having to run full speed against another fast person also running full speed. And then to your point, if you have to decide which hole is he going into and which gap, and you have to defend two at the same time. And if you're facing any running back who's worth his salt, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's easy to kind of set that safety up and then go the other way and make him wrong almost no matter what he does. I like where your head is at. I'm in the same realm. I chose the interior of the Bills defense against the Patriots offense. So I'm still run game focused. And I guess, with the whole idea of, especially with what the Patriots did in that first game with running all those G leads and like you mentioned, changing gaps and taking something from the left and moving it to the right and vice versa, they really attack that outside. And so I think that's a very fair point. I'm concerned about the interior the most out of the Bills' run defense. That center as a whole, the ability to maintain at the point of attack and not get gouged straight ahead. And a lot of it comes from the Patriots' ability to run gap runs. 51% gap runs on the year. That is the most in the entire NFL. They run zone on 42% of the time, which is ironically, or probably not ironically, the lowest amount in the NFL. They are seventh in terms of rushing DVOA. This is the big one that I really like. They are fourth in power success at 77%. For those who don't know, power success is a metric from Football Outsiders. They're fantastic. And it measures how often you convert on third and fourth down, 2 yards or less to go. Same thing in the red zone, third and fourth, 2 yards, third and goal from the 2 are in, fourth and goal from the 2 are in. The Patriots are converting on 77% of those opportunities with their power success. Conversely, the Bills defense, when it comes to power success, they are allowing teams to convert on 74% of those opportunities, which is 29th in the league. I am nervous about the matchup of that Pats offensive line, again, especially on the interior, but holistically overall, because like you said, they're a very talented group. They're a deep group. And I also think from a matchup perspective, not only are they talented, but the type of offensive line that they are big, they are physical, they mash. This Bills defensive front, holistically in the front, and the defense, honestly, as a whole as well, they are a smaller, faster type of defense. They are a one-gap penetrating defense. They are built to be aggressive, okay, here I am, I have my A gap, there you are, you have the other A gap, ready, set, go, attack, penetrate, go. And when you go against gap runs, there's times when you can be taken advantage of. We saw it against the Colts. We saw it against the Pats several times. And when you combine the style of the Bills defense versus the style of the Patriots running game, and then combined with the point that you made at the beginning, which I love, run fitting consistently and with proper technique is hard over and over and over again. To consistently be in your gap and consistently read on gap exchanges everybody has to be on the same page. If you're supposed to have the A and I'm supposed to have the B, but all of a sudden you're in the B, that means I got to fill to the A. And that has to happen across the entire front for whoever is filling in the run and whoever's filling what gap. You need everybody to be on the same page with the same level of understanding. You need the linebackers to read the defensive linemen. You need the linemen to move in a way that is symbiotic and helping out that linebacking core. And you have to have everybody on that same page, which is hard enough to do regularly, let alone against a team that is well coached up front, that executes well, and that has a matchup advantage, in my personal estimation, when it comes to the style of run that the Pats use and execute versus what the Bills do on defense. And I am concerned for what the Pats can do on the edge against the Bills with those, with those gap runs, but the interior concerns me a little more, just because I think it does a little more mentally when you get your soul sucked out when someone runs it literally right down your throat and right at you. And I know that it can be said, those physical power runs to the outside as well. But it concerns me as a whole. And I think it's very interesting that we both went in that direction of running with this team, or with the Bills run defense. Because I think, for both of us, you mentioned Mac Jones, and that's in my head as well. I don't think Mac Jones is a bad quarterback. I just don't think he's the quarterback that if we come out and say, okay, we put the ball in, we made the Patriots have to put the ball in Mac Jones's hands. Let's see if he can beat us. I'm not saying that's an easy win for the Bills, but I'm not sitting there with fear struck into my heart that like, oh no, Mac Jones is going to beat us. How do you, I know you spoke a little about Mac Jones, but how do you feel about him overall? He's a guy who I think he's very polarizing. I think some people want to crown him the next guy, and some people think that he's terrible and he's a joke because of some of the faces he makes when he throws the football.
Well, I think both can be true. I think he can be hilariously funny because of the faces he makes when he throws the football, and also be a completely reasonable quarterback. I did my final edition of QB Stew for this upcoming podcast for this week on the Bruce Exclusive. And here's where Mac Jones ended up falling, right? Mac Jones is 16th in QBR. He's 15th in passer rating. He's 17th in NEA. He is 14th in EPA per play. He is 13th in DVOA. He is 12th in PFF grade, and he was 8th in CPOE. So very, very small amount of variance in those metrics.
He was 8th in CPOE, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So here's what I know from that, right? He's a completely reasonable quarterback who has above average ball placement, but doesn't take a lot of shots downfield.
Yes.
We know this.
Yes.
He's not a significant threat with his legs.
Only 11% of his throws have come 20 yards or more. 21% of his throws have come in the intermediate 10 to 19. 47% have come 0 to 9 yards, and 14.8 have come behind the line of scrimmage.
Right. Mac Jones throws a swing pass better than most quarterbacks in the NFL. He really does.
Fair.
But that's only going to get you so far. So when you look at Mac, if I'm a Patriots fan, I go, okay, this is what we kind of knew Mac Jones was going to look like. So for me, I didn't learn anything new about Mac Jones this year. This was always going to be what I thought Mac Jones was going to be. The question is, can he be better than this? Can he be so good at those things and so good at the stuff above the neck that he can make up for the lack of physical attributes? The fact that there are certain throws that Mac Jones simply cannot attempt. There are certain maneuvers in the pocket he just cannot attempt. There's certain things that he's limited. I've said it a million times. Traits give you options. Well, Mac Jones doesn't have a bevy of traits. So what he does is he needs to be exemplary at the thing he does do. He can't just be good. He can't just be reasonable. He needs to be legendary. He needs to be Tom Brady, Drew Brees level legendary to be a really good franchise quarterback lacking traits. And it's not that those things are impossible. They're not impossible, but we haven't learned that he is that thing now. You can't look at Mac Jones at the end of this year and go, oh yeah, he's totally the guy. You also can't look at it and go, he's absolutely never going to be the guy. Now, the odds are lower, I think, that he's a stud 15-year quarterback because, I mean, Kirk Cousins has more traits than Mac Jones does. He's bigger, stronger. He's got a stronger arm, right? Kirk Cousins has more traits than Mac Jones, and that's not insane. And when we came into the league, we were thinking, okay, what if he ends up being Kirk Cousins? Well, now the the Minnesota Vikings are like, well, okay, Kirk Cousins wasn't quite enough. And so, again, you can be a franchise quarterback without a rocket arm and 4.6 speed. You can be that. And it's not an issue. It's just harder now because defenses are better. The fact of the matter is the reason why quarterbacks have evolved to being a little bit more playmakers is because defenses are better. Everyone seems to think that because offensive numbers are better now than they ever have been, that means defenses are worse. And that's not true. Defenses are better now than they've ever been. But it's a little bit like playing rock, paper, scissors. You throw scissors, they throw rock, then you throw paper. And this is the NFL throwing paper is fine. We need to come up with a quarterback who can win us the down when the coverage is right. When the defense calls the right play. When you're playing Tecmo Super Bowl and you press up and B and the defense presses up and B and you get that perfect blitz, right then you need a quarterback who can win when on paper you lost the down. That's what you need. And Josh Allen can do that. There are plays where Josh Allen is not in the right play. The right offensive play was not called. The coverage is correct. Everybody did their job, and Josh Allen will still beat you.
He does Josh Allen
Jones doesn't do that, which means he needs to be epic at the other things. Now, right now, he is not epic at the other things. Could he become epic at the other things? Sure, he could. I don't understand why we speak in such incredible certainties in regards to football.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Now, we can have a discussion as to whether or not Bill Belichick is a Sith, because we've talked about the evil empire and that whole thing. We can use it on the entire thing,
I do prefer the Sith, though. They have more access to the Force and they're more powerful, but that's a conversation for another time.
Mac Jones is going to go to Belichick and say, he's going to watch, Josh Allen tape and go, hey, is it possible to learn this power? He's going to go, not from a Jedi. It's going to be great.
There's nowhere to go but down from here. This
Absolutely.
is it. This is George Costanza nailing that joke at Jerry's, and he sees everyone laughing. He says, all right, goodbye, everybody.
I'm out. I'm out. Going on top. So
Nowhere
that's my spiel on Mac Jones.
Okay.
However, I do think that he's a quarterback you can win with right now.
Yes.
So if the Buffalo Bills lose to the New England Patriots, Mac Jones can be a reasonable reason why. He's just not going to take over a game. And if you remember, there's one game in the last couple where they asked Mac Jones to carry the load. What game was it? It was the Colts game. How did that work out?
Not so good.
Now, I will say this. The New England Patriots are so good at not falling into your script.
True.
They have a plan. When they come in and come hell or high water, this is the plan. And it's going to take every bit of prying and pulling and coaxing and coercing to get them out of their script. I don't care if they're down 12-3 and it's the third quarter. They're not going to panic. They're going to keep running the ball. They're going to keep playing within their system. They are not going to panic. And so in order to get them out of that, you got to be up by 3 scores. Right? You got to be up 18, 21, 24. Then you can start to see what needs to be seen. And the Patriots are not necessarily great at defending quarterbacks in the first quarter. So the first quarter of the year against the Patriots, quarterbacks have an over 100 passer rating. Right? Nice. The rest of the year, it's like 70. The rest of the game, it's like 70. So you got to take advantage of that. You got to get up. The things are aligning perfectly that I can almost tell you what the prediction of the game is going to be at the end of the first quarter. If at the end of the first quarter, the Bills are up 14-3, I feel good.
Yeah.
If at the end of the first quarter, the Bills are down 10-3, I feel really bad.
Yeah.
Really, really bad.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the Mac Jones conundrum. All of this weaves into itself about game script. And as Mac Jones goes, so too does the game script.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. And I've commented on several episodes and shows regarding things with Mac Jones, but what you said was so eloquent and beautiful that I'm not even going to pollute it with any of my thoughts or words. Spot on. And I think that's really what it comes down to circle it all back to that first point is Mac Jones is limited. The Pats want to run the ball for a multitude of reasons. That's the script they want to run on offense. And also, it keeps the ball away from Josh Allen. That's what they want to do. If the Bills can limit the run, if the Bills can stop that running game for New England and force Mac Jones to beat them, then the Buffalo Bills are in very good shape. And I think we would be in agreement on that. I'm going to go second since you went first. Are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to give my second option, my second matchup here. that I think will decide the Bills versus Patriots. And I'm going to start with kind of an overarching theme and then get more granular as we go with it. So my second matchup to watch for is, what will Bill Belichick try and take away? And I think the first game was kind of a wash when it came to that because of the weather. It was weird. There was a lot of oddities, so on and so forth. Then we came into that second game, and I think there was talks of like, okay, does he double Stephon Diggs? Does he try to take away Cole Beasley? Does, what is it? Is it coverage based? Is it run based? Is it individual player based? And I think a lot of the conversation was kind of like, what weapon does Belichick try and take away? And I think what Belichick tried to take away in that second matchup was Josh Allen's legs. We saw a lot of muddle rushes and contain rushes. We saw the Pats not really fully committing. We saw them bringing creeper pressures and simulated pressures, but guys kind of just like sitting and waiting and watching and waiting to attack. We didn't see a lot of full commitment. We didn't see the Patriots really give Josh Allen the opportunity for rushing legs to make plays outside of script, to break contain and make plays with his legs, right? They wanted to keep him in the pocket. And then Matt Judon came out today and said something very interesting that I wrote down. Matt Judon came out and said, quote, "We have to," and then he paused. He said, "We have to, again, keep Josh Allen in the pocket and make him use his arm and make him beat the coverage." Matt Judon was asked about what they have to do when defending Josh Allen. So my second matchup that I think will decide the Bills versus the Patriots is the theme of Josh Allen versus Bill Belichick within that scheme and game of what Bill Belichick is trying to take away. We know he always wants to take away one thing from the offense. It's usually your best thing or something that he thinks gives him an advantage, obviously. I think he's going to try and take away the legs of Josh Allen. And I think he's also going to try and take away aspects of the passing game that kind of suit his defense, which again makes sense. But some of the numbers were just really staggering. And this is where I think the weather comes into play. That's the only thing I'm really worried about when it comes to a lot of coverage stuff. So on the year, the Patriots defense are first in the league in single high coverages, so middle of the field covered. They run those coverages on 65% of their snaps. For reference, their highest played coverage is cover 3. They've run that 187 times. Their second highest coverage is cover 1. They've run that 164 times. So again, I mentioned 65% of the time they are in single high coverages. That is the most in the league. In week 16, they were in single high coverages 55% of the time. So a 10 percentage point drop. In week 13, when the wind was high and the lack of vertical ability from the Bills offense and the lack of even the deeper intermediate area because of the wind and so on and so forth, the Patriots were in single high coverages 86% of the time, which is unreal. Even for them, they lead the league in single high coverages at 65%. That's a 21 percentage point increase because of the elements, because of the weather. And couple that with the Patriots' ability to play man coverage and want to play man coverage. They come into this year, or on the year, they're at 34% man coverage, fifth most in the league. Both week 16 and week 13, they were in man coverage 39% of the time. They want to crowd the box. They want to be in single high looks. They want to use Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips to their strengths and put them around the box and use them as those linebacker, defensive back hybrids. They want to leave Devin McCourty in the single high in the post up top. And I think Bill Belichick wants to take away Josh Allen's legs as his number one, MO, modus operandi for, I think that's what MO stands for. In terms
confirm.
of, right? Thank you. Appreciate it. I knew I didn't even have to ask you. I knew you would tell me whether or not I was right or wrong. So I appreciate
you need some
that.
Latin. I got you.
Appreciate you.
I'm awesome at dead languages.
That's what needs to be in like your Twitter bio, like Bruce Nolan, awesome at dead languages. That's exactly what it is. Likes football, dogs are better than people, awesome at dead languages. Yeah, that's what it needs to be. That's like a best senior quote ever. Like, I'm awesome at dead languages. Yeah, and I think that's what I still expect to see like bracket coverage on Diggs and even Beasley at times, and I expect to see that double, but I expect to see the Pats crowd the line of scrimmage again based on even what they did in the second matchup when there was no elements and there was no weather and there was no wind. And the Bills took advantage of it. We saw Isaiah McKenzie over and over again eat against single high looks, whether it was cover 3 or especially when it was man. And poor Miles Bryant just kept drawing that assignment and kept getting beat on those deep overs over and over and over again. No pun intended. But ideally, I think Belichick wants to cut off Josh Allen's ability to run the ball, whether it's design runs or especially in those scrambles. I think they want to limit his ability to use his legs. They want to leave him in the pocket, make him stay in the pocket, clog the rush lanes, not let him escape, and make him sit back, read the coverage, make the right decisions. And I think they want to clog that intermediate and that short area, make him take the higher risk throws downfield, not allow him to escape with his legs, based on what we have saw in the first two matchups, based on their tendencies for the year, based on what's been said in the reports from the players and from Belichick and all that kind of stuff. And so that's my second matchup to watch, to see what Belichick tries to take away. But in particular, I think he's going to want to limit Josh's legs. And I'm interested to see what Josh can do against this Patriots defense from the pocket. And that is my number 2.
My number 2, and I'm going to try and make this as fast as possible because we are, again, running out of time because we always run long, is that
we do.
It's Diggs versus JC Jackson, but not for the reason you think. So I understand.
That's funny. I used that as an example in the beginning, and you actually used it.
Yeah. Diggs versus JC Jackson is the obvious one, but not for the reason you think. It's not because they're going to take away Stephon Diggs with JC Jackson. It's because their depth at corner is being tested right now. And
yes,
if they are forced to double Stephon Diggs, if they're forced to bracket him, that leaves you potentially open for a returning Emmanuel Sanders and Gabriel Davis and Isaiah McKenzie. If they have to allocate resources, this isn't about one-on-one stuff for me. This is about resource allotment. And if you are forced as a defense to allot additional resources to Stephon Diggs, then that opens you up to an Isaiah McKenzie game, which is exactly what they don't want to see again. And if they are going to do that, if they are going to do what Matthew Judon says, because part of me wonders if they're going to say, you know what, that didn't work, let's just bring the house. But then after listening to Matthew Judon, I'm like, he seemed pretty adamant about it, that they're going to probably roll out a very similar game plan to the way they rolled out last time. Yeah. And they're going to make sure that they have better stuff on the back end.
Or Belichick thinks that we'll think that, and the Bills will think that, and he sent Matthew Judon out as a double agent to say what he said, and it's actually a lie.
So that's a sub part of this. So you know what? I'm just going to do 2 and 3 at the same time. So we'll do 2, and it's Stephon Diggs and JC Jackson. It's because of resources. Okay. The Patriots need to make sure that JC Jackson can hold his own against Stephon Diggs, not just to stop Stephon Diggs. It's the trickle-down effect through the remainder of the offense. This is what we call the inverse Revis effect. You remember Rex Ryan always talking about Darrelle Revis and how his presence to be able to lock down someone opens up resources that you can then utilize on the other sides of the field to be able to flood the passing lanes with bodies. And he talked about this a lot. You know, you have combo coverages available on the opposite side because your ISO side has Darrelle Revis on it, and you just don't even worry about it. He doesn't have safety help. You don't have to worry. And that rolls everything over and compresses it down upon the remainder of the passing offense. So for me, I'm looking at JC Jackson versus Stephon Diggs, not just because of Stephon Diggs, because of the trickle-down effect through the entirety of the rest of the defense. Now, as a related note, you brought it up, and the last thing for me is Brian Daboll versus the duality of possibilities. While we are on Star Wars, if I had an opportunity here for there to be music, there would be Duel of the Fates playing in the background. Now, quick little side note. Do you know why it's called Duel of the Fates?
I do not.
Okay, so little Star Wars here for you. So the song is called Duel of the Fates because the result of that lightsaber battle changes the course of Anakin Skywalker forever. If Obi-Wan dies and Qui-Gon lives, Anakin Skywalker doesn't become Darth Vader. And they were actually talking about this when the gentleman, Dave Filoni, who does the live-action Star Wars shows on Disney+, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, things like that.
Fantastic.
When he was talking about it, he said that's the reason why they call it Duel of the Fates, because it is a duel that was determining the fate of a child at the time, because depending on the outcome of that fate, depending on the outcome of that duel, the whole universe has changed. Yes. If it's inverse, if Obi-Wan, dies and Qui-Gon lives, that's not how everything's different. So that's why they call it Duel of the Fates. So I thought that was kind of fun. Anyway,
that's awesome. I love that.
Brian Daboll versus the duality of possibilities. And that's this. You have to come in with 2 game plans.
Okay.
You have to understand that if the Patriots decide that they're going to run it back with a little bit different coverages on the back end, and they're going to continue to play contain, then that's fine. But they got cooked by Isaiah McKenzie last time. And if you get cooked by Isaiah McKenzie, and these were not like lucky plays.
No.
If you got cooked and you thought to yourself, listen, he can't pull that off again, then you might be willing to roll it back again. So if, you know, if that's your, I'm sorry, I'm distracted by the comments because Andrew Pagano says Filoni does the animated, Favreau does the live action. My friend, I will help you with this. So Dave Filoni, right? Dave Filoni, yes. 100%.
I didn't know if you were going to see it.
Right? Dave Filoni has absolutely worked on The Mandalorian. He absolutely has. In fact, he did such a good job doing the animated stuff that they brought him in as a consultant and are considering handing him the whole thing because the animated stuff was better than the live action stuff until he helped kind of get involved in some of that stuff. So I'm just saying here, I'm just throwing that out there, Andrew. You know, yes, it's true. He does do the animated stuff, but they brought him in because of how good the animated stuff was to consult on the live action stuff. So there's that. Anyway, the duality. This is why we go long. This is why we go long. We got 8 minutes and we're like, I gotta go. Okay. So if the Patriots decide that they're going to run it back and play contain, you have to have a plan for that. If the Patriots decide, you know what, we're bringing the house, you have to plan for that too. You can't be caught off guard because you don't have enough time to be caught off guard. As previously discussed, you have to be able to jump out early. And if the Patriots are able to get you off balance and knock you off balance early, it allows them to stay in their game script for longer. And we don't want them to stay in their game script long. I don't want this to be a one-score game in the fourth quarter. That's exactly what they want it to be.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want it to be. You need to be able to jump out fast. And in order for you to be able to jump out fast, you cannot make those adjustments at halftime. You have to come in with the preparation already done that if they decide they're going to play, they're going to throw a rock, you better darn well not be going around searching for your paper. You better have your paper in your pocket already.
You can't wait till halftime to find paper.
Exactly. You can't wait till halftime to find paper. So you need to go in saying, listen, we need to jump out early. And to do that, I need to be able to have plans ready to go. And I need to be able to have my script to be able to feel them out. And then by the end of the first drive, the end of the second drive, I know how they're going to play me now. And I have something. I'm not going to say, well, sample size. No, that's exactly what they want you to do. What they want you to do is slow play this and wait so that they can stay inside their game script longer. And what
play
you
into their hand
is knock them out of it as soon as possible.
I like it. I like where your head's at. I like that idea. And also, ironically, it fits in with my third point. So the idea of having that duality of the fates, right?
Duel of the
fates. The idea of coming in and already having an idea of how to pivot or what to pivot to based on what the Patriots are going to do and based on what you're going to see. And that fits into what I have for this third point here, which is the Bills' run game, particularly the success we've seen on the pin and pulls and the success of the offensive line. So this Bills offensive line, the matchup against the Patriots defensive line and the defensive front in the run game is my third most important matchup to watch because of that idea that kind of goes along with what you're saying there, the idea of adjusting and adapting and having that pivot. Having a pivot for the Buffalo Bills offense has been something that we've seen at times this year, and at times we have not seen. It has cost us some games. It has made this Bills offense seem sluggish, and like at times they have to squeeze blood from a stone. We've seen, because of how much they've leaned into this spread offense and this spread world, and fastball, got to have your fastball. We've seen at times that they don't have the feel for the changeup, or they're not even attempting to throw that changeup. What we've seen the back half of the year is the success in the Bills run game. Now, granted, some of the teams that they have played have not been stellar, the Falcons and the Jets and even Carolina, but we have seen more success with these pin and pull runs, with counters, with power runs, with GT Bash, with Josh Allen. We have seen successful gap runs from this Bills offense. And this was a really interesting stat. So from weeks 1 through 13, the Bills ran gap runs on 27% of their runs, and they ran zone on 67%. So weeks 1 through 13, 27% gap, 67% zone. Since week 14, so weeks 14 through 18, 48% gap, which is the fifth most in the NFL through that time, and 48% zone. So a dead split. Since the inclusion of Ryan Bates into this offense, since the return of Spencer Brown, we've seen the Bills start to be able to hang their hat on something on the offensive line in the run game, something that they did not have earlier in the year. The way the offensive line came into this year initially, Darrell Williams at right, Cody Ford inside of him, Mitch Morse at center, John Feliciano at left guard, Dawkins at left tackle. We had an offensive line that was middling overall in terms of like talent and ability and execution, but also in terms of what scheme they could lean on. They weren't holistically athletic enough to lock into a zone scheme and be able to work that. And they weren't athletic enough and physical enough to nail down gap runs. And they were always kind of caught in this in between. And through the beginning part of the year, again, weeks 1 through 13, 67% zone. And the Bills, I know the final rushing numbers for the year show that I think they had the 6th highest rush yards per game, but a lot of that is due to Josh Allen and what he does. And a decently down year for running the ball. I think there's only like 4 or 5 rushers who were over 1,000 yards. It was a weird year. But anyway, that's another conversation for another time. The Bills have developed a pivot in the back quarter of the year. And I think it really started in the second half against Tampa Bay when we saw that pin and pull run that led to a nice game for Devin Singletary. We've seen success with that scheme, that pin and pull scheme throughout the entire year, but they've leaned on it more these last several weeks. We are seeing Spencer Brown out in space, Mitch Morse out in space, Ryan Bates out in space, Deion Dawkins, Darrell Williams, all of them, and executing to various levels and varying degrees. The athleticism of Ryan Bates, his 9.54 RAS score coming out of college, combined with the physicality that he's showing is so strong. His ability to reach block and hook guys and pin and allow Morse to get around him and all these different things on the offensive line. The Bills have developed a pivot. If that pivot can continue against the New England Patriots, this is why I want to see it. Because one, obviously, if they can pivot to the run game at some point and use that, it's tremendously helpful for this game in a vacuum. But it's also helpful going forward for what they can do in the playoffs. So it shows their ability to stay versatile. They can stay multiple. They don't have to be locked into one thing. They have the ability to adapt and adjust and go, okay, this isn't working. Let's pivot to this. We have something we can hang our hat on. We know what they want to hang their hat on holistically as a team, right? On the offense, it's Josh Allen, the passing game, but it's really just Josh Allen, right? This team goes as far as Josh Allen goes. If you open up the Bills offensive playbook, the first 5 pages are just different catalog action shots of Josh Allen. That's what it is. And then after that, it's like, oh, Earhart Perkins. And it's like, no, Josh Allen. That's what this offense is. But having the ability to pivot against the Pats will give confidence to their ability to sustain success against other defenses going forward. And New England, they're, again, good defense, 4th in DVOA overall, 3rd in passing DVOA for defense, 9th in rushing defense DVOA. They're a good squad. They're stout. They're physical. If the Bills have that pivot early on, I expect to see them test the waters a little bit on that first drive. They've been doing a really good job with their opening scripts the last several weeks in terms of working in the pass and the run. I think it harkens to your idea for Daboll in this game of being able to poke and prod in the first 2 drives and be like, okay, this is what's working. This is what's not. Here's how we go. Boom, attack, and we move from there. So that ability to have that pivot, that run game, and particularly that Bills offensive line against the Patriots defensive front, seeing if this offensive line is real, if their success that we've seen over the last several weeks, is it due to them being good and finally rounding into form a little bit, or is it because they played defensive fronts that weren't that great and weren't ideal, and did they take advantage of lower caliber talent? And that's my third. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
I think you're fantastic, and I think you're beautiful, even though I can't see you and no one has.
Oh my gosh. Did you see Andrew in the comments?
No. Oh, this one?
Yes. Bruce exclusive. A Thomas Pynchon-esque Star Wars Marvel fan and food critic, as well as most eloquent Bills content for impressive. Most impressive, he says.
Andrew's killing it tonight.
I think that's the first time I've ever been compared to Thomas Pynchon before.
Wow. Well done.
Goodness.
You know who else I want to give
a deep cut, man. That's a deep cut.
That's a deep one. And I wanted to give Andrew a shout out for that. You called him out. He had a good comment there. You know who else I want to give a shout out to? I want to give a shout out to you and I. You know why? Because we stayed on time. We were conscious of it. I'm going to continue for a little bit on this episode of Disguise coverage, so stay with me. But Bruce, you are on a time crunch. You made the available time to join me tonight. We said 7:45, at the latest. It is 7:45 right now. By the time you leave, it'll probably be like, oh, it just turned 7:46, but we're very close. This is the first time we've ever stayed true to form. And we stayed true to form and we didn't have to cut out content. We got a few tangents in, a few fun things about Star Wars, and an additional topic in Mac Jones. In addition to our 3 matchup topics, we fit everything in. We shot our shot. We got our work in, and we stayed on time. And I think we each deserve a pat on the back for that. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think you are probably too. Again, we can't see you, so I don't know. But I heard it. I heard the pat. Thank you very much.
I made sure
And
to hit it hard. Now I got to go crack my neck.
yeah, right. Because you did it too hard in your hunch like that.
We'll-
I appreciate
we'll-
you as always.
we'll-
You are.
commit to it, man.
You got to commit to it. You are phenomenal in every way, shape, or form. I am very appreciative to have the relationship that I have with you and be able to work with you and do all that stuff. You're great. And just in case people do not know where they can find you or what you do or all that stuff, feel free to explain to the world who you are, where they can find you, and what you do.
Well, you can find me on social media at Bruce Exclusive on Twitter and Instagram. Be warned, the Twitter is mostly nonsensical tangents, and the Instagram is mostly pictures of dogs and food. So just so you're aware, that's what that is. My show, The Bruce Exclusive, drops every Thursday morning on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. In addition, I host a live show with WGR 550's Nate Geary on Friday evenings called Food for Thought, which is a weird mashup between a food podcast and a football podcast. We tongue-in-cheek say that it combines 2 of your 3 favorite F words on our show. That's the running joke. So every time it says we combine 2 of your 3 favorite F words. So not only is this the only time we've gotten out on time, this is the only time we've gotten out close to on time.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
last 2 times you said we're going to try and run an hour, and we're an hour and 45 minutes in both times, and we're still going. And we're like, no, I'm sweating. Like my wife had to bring me a water, like I'm a marathon runner halfway through. You know, good thing it's not coffee, like a Seinfeld episode. It's just a disaster all the way across the board. So for me, it's 7:48. I'll consider that a win. Thanks a lot, man.
Win. That's a huge win. No, thank you. I appreciate you. You are phenomenal. I will see you out there in the Twitterverse. Be safe. Good luck doing all the work that you got to do for the rest of the night. And I'll see you around. Appreciate you as always.
Have fun, but not too much.
Thank you. Later, Bruce. Oh, man. Good dude. Good guy. Mr. Bruce Exclusive. Insightful, eloquent, awesome voice, well-spoken, good dude. I want to start to pivot to some more things about this game, some matchup stuff about this game. But what I also want to do is, so I'm going to pull up some sponsorship things in a minute. But what I also want to do, we got a lot of people here live in this episode, 148 people live in this episode. I want to start to get thoughts, comments, concerns. What matchup are you watching for? What concern do you have? What advantage do you think the Bills have? What advantage do you think the Patriots have? Anything and everything. Start to bring it in the chat. I want to start to have some open discussion and dialogue on that kind of stuff. That's one of the advantages of being able to live stream here on Disguise Coverage, part of the Cover One Sports Network. So start to get that stuff in. Let's have a chat. Let's talk. Little therapy session, maybe calm some fears, ease some doubts, or strengthen some excitement and hope that you have. And while you guys are getting those thoughts ready and starting to flood the chat, hopefully, otherwise I just said a bunch of stuff and nobody did anything, and otherwise that's embarrassing. I'm going to bring up the sponsor. You guys know what it is by now. You should. This show is sponsored by One Pipe Pizza. You see the Twitter handle there on the graphic. It's at One Pipe Pizza, WNY. That is the Twitter handle. In the episode description here in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you are listening on any one of the podcasting apps or platforms, the online menu for One Pipe Pizza can be found in the episode description. I will guarantee you will not be disappointed. Delicious sweet sauce pizza, homemade blue cheese. They're a family-first company, and I don't just say that just to say it, and they don't say it just to say it. They're genuinely good people. They're kind-hearted. They work hard. I wouldn't have partnered with them had they not been top-level people. In addition to having a top-level and top-notch product, they believe in doing one thing and doing that one thing right, and that's making great pizza. As a result, they have a limited menu, but everything on there is perfection and delicious. Go get yourself some One Pie Pizza. The online menu can be found in the episode description here in the show notes. They are open Monday through Saturday, 11 to 8, or until sold out. Sometimes they're open on Sundays as well, based on demand, which they have been recently because they are in such high demand. You can find them on Clinton Street. Phenomenal. Get into that online menu, get the directions, get yourself some One Pie Pizza. They are fantastic in every way, shape, and form. Now, I'm going to circle back Starting to see some comments rolling through. Let me go back. Go to this initial one from John. And John says we will see a strong Pats D. I think. I think we will from the Patriots. I know what the Bills did in the second matchup between these two teams, but this is a good New England Patriots defense. And they roll multiple defensive backs out there. They stay with 5 defensive backs out there because of their ability to be versatile and multiple, what Adrian Phillips can do in addition to Kyle Duggar. They're a strong unit. We saw potentially maybe a weakened Matthew Judon the last time they played. He is a stud up front. I know Barmore had an injury, but he looks to be on track to play this weekend. Godchow has played well. And J.C. Jackson, I know a lot of people like to get at the idea that Stephon Diggs owns him or has done better against him than J.C. Jackson has against him. But J.C. Jackson is arguably a top 5 corner in this league. He's a ball hawk. He makes plays on the ball. If he gets that interception against the Bills when it's 26-21, who knows? Maybe that game is completely different if he picks that ball off on the Bills' 30-yard line to start that drive that the Bills went down and scored. So he's quality. Devin McCourty is quality. Donta Hightower is a thumper, but is decently good in coverage for his size, and he's smart and he's heady. Jawan Bentley is a thumper, and he's good coming forward. This is a good Pats D. Again, 4th in DVOA, 3rd in passing DVOA for defense, and 9th against the run in terms of DVOA for the defense. So they're a good squad. They're a good squad. What else? Comment here from Streeter. I'm not scared of this Patriots team, but if we lose to this Patriots team, I might have some sort of episode. I'm right there with you. It would be a really long and miserable offseason if the Bills were to lose to the Patriots. One, because it would just be a first-round exit, which is disappointing in and of itself, but to lose to the Pats, especially to this team that I don't think you're biased as a Bills fan or anything like that to say that this Bills team is overall a better football team than the New England Patriots. Now, forgive me there as I had to cough real quick. Now, if you want to talk about who has a matchup advantage, that's a potentially different conversation. But overall, and holistically, as I like to say, one of my favorite words, this Bills team is a better team, a better roster, top to bottom. And it would be disappointing knowing that the Bills lost to a lesser team and lost to a team that, let's be honest, everybody hates and we don't like. And it would be very, very disappointing. So yeah, I might have some sort of episode. It would not be great. Not be great. Ooh, interesting comment here from Ron. I think the Bills can run on New England outside the tackles. I also think Knox can beat their linebackers. I think that's a very interesting matchup advantage point, right? The ability of Dawson Knox in his route running ability. He's progressed this year. He's always had that athleticism. He's always had the size advantage and the speed and the physicality, but now he's starting to add a little nuance to his game. I think that is potential mismatch advantage for the Buffalo Bills if we can get Knox matched up on Hightower or Jawan Bentley. I think the issue, though, you'll see the Pats shift down and spin down to be able to have Duggar or Adrian Phillips or one of their defensive backs lined up on Knox instead. But that's, again, a chess match and a chess piece the Bills have an advantage with. And with Jalen Mills on the COVID report, if he officially does not play, like Bruce mentioned, that's a huge loss for this Patriots team. Jalen Mills, I know he wasn't the sexiest addition coming over from Philly this year, but he's shown some scheme versatility for this Patriots defense. He's done well. He's been solid. He's been reliable and dependable, which is all Belichick really wants. Play within the scheme, quote unquote, do your job. So, that would be a big loss as well. But yeah, I think any of the Bills' weaponry on the outside, whether it's receivers or tight ends, especially Knox, matched up against Hightower or Bentley, that's advantage for the Bills all day long. I'm seeing comments about Matt Hawk. I'll talk about it right now. I am nervous about the special teams game. I am nervous about Matt Hawk's inconsistency punting the ball. And I am nervous about the return game, whether it's Isaiah McKenzie, whether it's Marquez Stevenson. I'm nervous. The decision-making and the ball security, it's sketchy. I don't feel confident. At this point, the confidence I have in anyone returning is Micah Hyde. He gets like 5 to 8 yards, which is good enough. That's fine. And he's secure in catching the ball, knock on wood. And maybe I'll even just take that, send a guy back there who I know is secure and fair catching the ball or making the right decision to let the ball bounce or catch it on the bounce. We cannot afford turnovers or sloppy plays or momentum changing plays for the Patriots. Cannot turn the ball over, cannot give the Patriots a short field, cannot allow them to build any sort of confidence and add to that game script. That was a great point that Bruce mentioned earlier, right? the idea of the Patriots, they want to just hang around. They want to make it a slow game. They want to make it a dirty game. They want to keep it close. They do not want to get in a track meet with the Bills. They do not want to allow the Bills to get out in front and get up and put points up. And if you lose possessions, i.e., because you got a punt and you fumbled it and New England recovers it, you are losing opportunities to score, one, obviously, but you're also losing the opportunity to change that game script in your favor. You are playing into their hand. If you turn the ball over, we cannot afford special teams turnovers. And from the punting aspect, if you're punting from inside your 30 and you shank one, like Matt Hawk did several times last week, his first 3 punts had an average of 28.3 yards. If you're punting from your own 20 and the ball's going out at your 48, so basically midfield, it's almost like a turnover. And we cannot allow those things to happen. You can't give the Pats short fields, can't allow them to take advantage of that. And comment here from Air Allen, nice name. I want to see how we dial up the run. I have no worries, but I also don't want to become anxious because the game is close. I think it depends on how we run the rock. Josh runs, motor runs. The Josh running piece, again, I mentioned it earlier, was my second most important matchup to watch. What the Patriots try to take away, and I think it's going to be the battle of Josh Allen versus Bill Belichick, and I think Belichick's going to try and take away Josh Allen's legs and his ability to run the ball. I think it's going to be more from a scrambling perspective in terms of how they try to contain him and keep him in the pocket. But the QB design runs, they've been something that's worked. I think we can all agree we don't want to see Josh running the ball. In a perfect world, Josh every play just drops back to pass and he sits and he has time and he picks people apart and he throws, right? I don't want to see him take any hits that he doesn't need to. I don't want to see him go to the ground ever, even if he's just sliding. So I don't want to see him get hit. I don't want to see him get tackled. I don't want to see him have to break a tackle or go to the ground or be taken to the ground, anything like that. However, Josh's legs are a significant part of his game. And they've been a significant part of this offense, whether it's, breaking contain and getting outside of script and making plays with his legs and keeping his eyes downfield and making throws on the run, or running past the line of scrimmage and scrambling and gaining yards that way, or these QB design runs, which we've seen. Josh is a weapon in the red zone, and especially in the low red zone around the goal line and getting into the end zone with these QB design runs. And we've also seen them bust out those QB runs all over the field. So I think how we run the ball in this game will 1,000% be a huge, huge part of this game. The Bills are not going, especially against this New England defense, the Bills are not going to come out and pass the ball 80 or 90 times and see sustained success. I don't think. The Pats are a good unit. They're well coached. They have talent. They're schemed up well. And they're going to make Josh have to be patient and beat them by matriculating the ball up the field. So if the Bills have that pivot, if the Bills can run the ball, whether Josh is killing it with his arm or if he's struggling a little bit, having those runs with Josh and Devin Singletary, who is clearly the RB1 now at this point. I put it out earlier on Twitter, or yesterday I put it out. First 12 games for Devin Singletary at 408 touches, an average of 34 touches per game. 408 snaps per game, an average of 34 snaps per game. The last 5 games, he's seen 306 snaps, an average of 61 snaps per game. He's clearly the RB1 down the stretch. He's going to continue to be. I think that running game is going to loom large, whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Devin Singletary, whether it's, some jet sweeps and some jet action with Isaiah McKenzie. The Bills need to run the ball. They need to keep the Pats off balance. Comment here from Eric. Where's the best pizza in Buffalo? I've been searching since December 30th, 2019, when Leonardi's closed its doors. They were the king. Eric, I already have the answer for you. It's a sponsor of the show, One Pie Pizza. They're delicious. They're fantastic. Here, let me throw up the other. Boom, little graphic right there on that, right? Oh, so close. I was nowhere close. There we go. Wow, I'm horrible at this, and I do this all the time. There it is. It's One Pie Pizza. They're delicious. Online menu in the episode show notes and description. Get yourself some, and get some homemade blue cheese while you're at it. They're phenomenal. That's the best pizza in Buffalo. And what else? Oh, trivia question here from Dillick. Josh Allen mentioned in a presser that his feet get cold in extreme weather. What's the chance that Patriot espionage would pick up on that and strategize against it? I don't know. Maybe they'll sneak some freezers underneath the field and try and freeze his feet even more so. Oh, I like this one from King Thriller. The dark side will finally be destroyed. Emperor Belichick will finally be destroyed. The Bills will reign supreme. Trilogy finna to have a happy ending. I like that. Anything that ends with the Bills win and the Patriots loss, I will gladly take. What else? What else? Comment here from Andrew. I'm worried about A-gap blitzes and our new interior O-line. I just don't think their DBs can cover our plethora, nice word, of quality receivers for more than 2 to 3 seconds. That's very interesting. Andrew, I'm still worried about the offensive line overall, whether it's on the edge, whether it's on the interior, any of that kind of stuff. I think you have to be, and I know the line has played better as of late, but there is a competition discussion, to have based on the opponents that they were facing. But I put out a tweet earlier today. Josh Allen has been pressured the most of any quarterback in the NFL this year. It was 246 times. That's a lot of pressures. Matt Ryan was second at 245, and we know how much of a statue he is and how porous the Falcons' O-line has been. So Josh Allen was the most pressured quarterback in the entire NFL this year. The good news is the percentage of those pressures that were turned into sacks were only 10.6%, which was the lowest out of all 40 quarterbacks that had at least 50 dropbacks. So Josh's elusiveness and mobility in the pocket kept him clean. His pocket manipulation, his movement, his understanding, it's the reason he wasn't sacked more, but it's still not great. Josh saw a lot of pressures throughout the year, and I think the Patriots have that capability with the front that they have, the creativity they can have with their blitzes and their looks. So, I know, Andrew, you're particularly worried about the interior of the O-line and how they, held up against the blitz or rushes. I'm concerned overall, the entire O-line. I think that's a potential story. Anthony says, are any of the concept used by the Dolphins ones that can be used by the Bills? You know what's awesome, Anthony? I also do this other show called The Film Room. Also, first of all, you have an awesome name. Well done to your parents for naming you that, and we have an awesome name. So air high five for us. But myself and Eric Turner do the Cover One Film Room. And on tomorrow night's episode, we're going to be identifying several themes when it comes to the Patriots offense and the Patriots defense and the Bills offense and the Bills defense and all this type of stuff for this Bills Patriots game. And some of the things that we're going to be showing and talking about are because of that Patriots Dolphins game this past week. I'm actually going to be grinding some of that film tonight from the Miami defense side to see what they did against the Patriots offense, because I am very curious. So tune in to the Cover One Film Room tomorrow night to see some of that stuff, because I think you will see some stuff. Comment here from Jason. Matchup to watch. Josh Allen against himself. Take what the defense is giving you. Don't get quote unquote crazy and start throwing into double and triple coverage. I think that's good. We can't see sugar high Josh Allen. We can't see the Josh Allen that starts to press. And I think that's also, to Bruce's point and several points in the comments, the idea of getting up on the Patriots early, right, is the idea of when the games are close, whether they're close or whether, especially when the Bills are playing from behind, Josh Allen starts to press. He starts to make more of those questionable decisions. He starts to fit throws into windows that he probably shouldn't. He starts to throw more across his body. Now, some of that works out well for him. He had a throw last week against the Jets where he threw across his body to McKenzie, first down. He had multiple throws across his body to the middle of the field against New England in Week 16 that he should not have made, but he made them, and they worked out great. He also has throws that he makes like he did against Atlanta that lead to interceptions. So that's the yin and the yang of it. I will say majority of the time when he tries those ridiculous plays, I think they do work out more often than not. But I like that notion of him being able to play within himself, take what the defense is giving you, take the swing pass, take the out route on first down for 5 yards and get to 2nd and 5. Don't feel like you have to push the ball too much downfield. If you're scrambling, there's nothing there, throw it out of bounds, live to fight another day. Don't try to throw it into triple coverage across your body. I think, though, part of that is going to be his game. We are going to continue to see that. But I think a lot of it is going to be due to that game script. And if the Bills are down or this game is close and Josh feels like he needs to make a play, you're going to see him press to make a play. And that's where some of those errors come in. So that's a very good comment there. Where else? What other comments do we got here? Hopefully Matt Hawk is practicing taking snaps, dropping the ball, and kicking it. Comment here from Ethan. He says, why the hell did the NFL make this a night game? It just seems masochistic with the extreme cold. It's prime time, though, and I think they're playing for that. I think they're thinking the elements combined with Bills, Patriots, prime time. I think it's interesting placement that we got that. Comment here from DH, who says, our D-line versus their O-line. I mentioned it earlier. It was a major thing for, a matchup for me that I was watching. The idea of this Bills' ability to stop the Patriots' run game. I think a lot of it starts up front. How gap sound are they? How much integrity do they maintain on their run fits? How much pressure can they get on Mac Jones? Do the Bills have to commit more people to the box because the defensive line is getting handled and because the Patriots offensive line is getting to the second level and getting blocks on Milano and Edmonds and Taron Johnson? I think that's a huge matchup to watch. The Bills D-line has to be on point in this game. And another thing I'm keeping an eye on, who plays in this game for the defensive line? I think you have your locks, Ed Oliver, Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, Gregory Rousseau, Harrison Phillips, Star Latulele. Those are your locks. And then who else are we looking at? Are we looking at Ilianku? Or are we looking at AJ Epinesa? Are we looking at Vernon Butler? Are we looking at Boogie Basham? Are we looking at F.A. Obata? Who gets placed in on that defensive line? What is the rotation? Do they have 9 guys on the defensive line? Do they have 10? Do they try to go a little heavier because of the Patriots offense? Do they try to go with more versatility, guys who can do inside out like F.A. Obata? I think, seeing that game day inactives list is something to watch for. And then obviously the in-game execution once it comes to it. Andy says, can the Bills get a home playoff game in any scenario for week 2 of the playoffs other than Pitt beating Kansas City? No, because if Kansas City wins, then basically that game decides what happens because it's automatic. If the Steelers lose because they're the highest or they're the lowest seed, and then because KC is the second seed and they're the highest after the Titans, that game decides everything else. So if Pittsburgh wins, they automatically play Tennessee. The Bills would host the winner of the Raiders-Bengals. If the Chiefs win, that means if the Bills win, they're the 3 seed, they're the higher seed, they'd automatically play Kansas City. The Titans would then get the lower seed. So if the Bills want another home game in the divisional round, the Steelers need to beat the Chiefs. I see more comments. I'm going to skip some of them and go down to the end because I saw a super chat and it catches my eye. Oh, there's a lot of stuff coming through. Well done, Thomas. Thomas asked if Bill Belichick made his New Year's resolution. 1, Thomas, thank you so much for the $5 donation. I appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. 2, thank you for continuing to bring this full circle about the resolution. I don't think he did. I know the reporter asked again. I don't think she received an answer. I do not think she received an answer. Lots of comments. Wow, there's way more comments that I thought. I'm going to start to get everything. Start to go on these last little bit questions. Comment here from Jason. I think we need to see a lot of creative. I think we see a lot of creative pressure coming. I'm sorry. No way they're going to contain the rush again after last game. They're going to press receivers, parentheses, hold them, and make Josh make quick choices. I would expect to see the Patriots challenge the Bills receivers. Again, on the year, 34% man coverage. Both times they played the Bills, they ran 39% man coverage. I expect to see some sort of press man, physicality, trying to get the Bills off rhythm, whether it's Josh, whether it's receivers, anything like that. I expect to see that to a decent amount. Comment here from Devin. What's up, Dev? Do you think this time the Pats are more likely to commit more to the run or more to letting Jones try to throw deeper? Thanks. Love the show. Appreciate you, Devin. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the kind words. You're here all the time. You're fantastic. I think they stick with the run. I don't think we're going to see another game where it's only like, well, the Pats only threw 3 times. I think you're going to see similar to what you saw in week 16. The Patriots are a running team. They want to go play action. Mac Jones is very comfortable coming out of play action, and he's good out of play action as well. This offense starts with the running game. It starts with Damian Harris. It starts with Ramondre Stevenson. It starts with that offensive line up front. I think they will continue to commit to the run. Mac Jones passing will be secondary to that run game. The Patriots do not want to come out and make this a Mac Jones game. They want to lean on the run and allow Mac Jones to work in his spots and be able to succeed that way. Awesome comment here from Steven. Special teams might decide this game if it gets windy and cold. Turnovers kill momentum. I completely agree on that. A lot of comments. Comment here from Dwayne, who says, great show. Appreciate you. He says, we saw us run a little 4-3 in week 16. You think we go back to that? Yes, I do. I think we will see AJ Klein in on some snaps. I also think when the Patriots go heavier, you're going to see them revert to what they used a little bit in week 16 as well, which was they had AJ Klein in, so they had a 4-3, but then they also brought in Saron Neal as another corner to replace Dane Jackson. So a little heavier in terms of that personnel because, Saron Neal is technically a corner, but he's still got like a safety frame and body. So going a little thicker and going a little heavier, I do think you will see that adjustment. If the Pats keep going heavy with 2 running backs and 2 tight ends, and they want to bring in Jakob Johnson, they want to have Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, and they want to go big like that, I think you'll see Klein, and I think you might have that Klein and Saran Neal rotation into the game like we saw last time. Coming from Andrew, how effective will our jumbo looks be against the Pats D? I think they'll continue to succeed. I like the idea of running those, 6 lineman sets, where that extra lineman is like another tight end. And they did it with Spencer Brown, and then he had to go into the starting lineup. They did it with Ryan Bates. He had to go into the starting lineup, and now they're using Tommy Doyle. I still don't have a ton of faith in Doyle, but I like those looks because they give you a numbers advantage and scheme advantage in the run, especially against smaller teams, but it helps you even the odds a little bit against bigger teams and heavier teams like New England. But also on the flip side, it gives you the opportunity to work out of that because everything about those looks screams run the ball, heavy personnel, run, and it gives you the opportunity to play some mind games and go with some play action or those types of passes where Knox or Gabe Davis sells that block and then leaks out into the flat or on a 7 round, things like that. So that's nice. Also, another awesome comment from Andrew. Andrew says 162 in the room, only 64 likes. Let's go, guys. I usually say it at the end. Likes are tremendously important towards helping myself and this entire channel to track and trend, get in front of more eyes and ears. And so I know it's corny. Please drop a like. Whether you're here now, whether on your way out later, please drop a like. It does it makes a world of difference for myself and the entire team. And I know it's corny, to say that or ask for that, but it really does go a long way. So thank you very much, Andrew. And also for everyone, rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage to Cover One. Those go a tremendously long way as well. Again, we're trying to grow, get even bigger, get in front of more eyes and ears, be able to put out more and continue to put out successful and strong content for you guys. And that's an easy way to, help us to continue to do that. So thank you very much. Comment from King Thriller. Does Cole Beasley become a bigger asset knowing that wind and freezing cold, knowing that small winds and freezing cold, we need to utilize one of the best slot receivers in the game? I think it depends on a lot of the coverage that the Pats use. If the Pats go zone, I like to see Beasley. If they throw those cover 1 or those cover 3 looks, those single high looks, those deep overs from McKenzie, those take advantage of that all day. McKenzie and Cole Beasley are not the same player. They do not do the same things on offense, but McKenzie is very well built to beat single high coverage and man coverage. And I like that matchup all day. So I think it's going to depend more on what the Patriots are doing on defense. But yeah, I mean, if the Bills can't push the ball downfield, you need somebody who is very good in the short and the low intermediate, and that's Cole Beasley all day. Another comment here from Devin. I feel like Bill Belichick will have something different from last game, whether different schemes, whether different run schemes, or maybe finally letting Mac try to throw the ball down the field. He's a guy who breaks tendency. He's smart. He's savvy. He also does a lot of other things to give himself some advantages. So who knows? You never know. I thought there would be some interesting tendency breakers in the second game, and he really kind of stayed true to form. So, but again, he could completely switch it up and change it up for this playoff game. So that's definitely something to watch for in terms of what he's going to do. I see Super Chat coming through. So thank you very much, Triggs. Appreciate your donation. And let's read your comment here. Do you think it's an indictment on Dable on the offensive slumps? Josh Allen always has to hit the F it button and play off script for this offense to convert and score. I think Dable's been better than people give him credit for. I think he's made more adjustments than people realize. And I also think a decent amount of the offensive slump has to be placed onto the players and the execution piece. Just from all the film study and everything I've watched, combined with the metrics and the stats and all that, there's been a lot of times where Dable's crafted up some really good stuff and the idea was good and the idea was sound, but the players didn't execute, especially up front. The holes along the offensive line and the poor play on the offensive line held this team back for a long time in this year. So I think some of it obviously has to be placed onto Dable. You got to be able to recognize that and coach out of it and try and scheme around your deficiencies and mitigate your weaknesses. But I also think a significant portion of that has to fall onto the players as well. Because even if you scheme up the best thing and draw up the best play, the players still have to execute it. It's still a players-driven league. So I think a lot of it is the on-the-field piece too. But yeah, he takes some blame. It's like in any loss, nothing is completely black and white. There's some everywhere. Everything is related. That's what a team is. But I think it is an indictment a little on Dable, but it's also an indictment on the players as well because they haven't executed as they should have for a majority of the year, especially during those slumps. Oh, comment for DH. DH says, I believe the first team to score 21 points wins the game. Ooh, very interesting. I wonder what that point total will be. What else? Oh, this is a good one from Dwayne. Dwayne says, I predict Bill will be throwing the phone on the bench again. All right, I'm going to start to read these last several. We start to wind down here on the show. Jason says, could you see us going into a lot of 5 wide? I can see Dable trying to find a way to get McKenzie and Bees on the field at the same time. I think a lot of it's going to depend on on the game script and the flow of the game. Again, this is a pass first team. This is a Josh Allen team. It's a spread team. If they can spread out the Patriots and attack them, I think they will. That's what they want to do. They are, where are my notes here? Let me go to it. The Bills offense on the year, 71% of the time, they are in 11 personnel. So 1 running back, 1 tight end, AKA 3 receivers. So they're in 3 receiver sets 71% of the time, which is the 6th most in the NFL. They're also in 10 personnel, which is 4 wide receiver sets. So 4 wides, 1 running back, no tight ends, 7% of the time, which is the 3rd most in the NFL. Especially with Manny Sands coming back, they're going to work him in. I think that's an advantage, especially with Jalen Mills potentially being out. So Diggs, Manny, Davis, Cole Beasley, Isaiah McKenzie, Dawson Knox. I think you have the opportunity for a lot of spread game. A lot of it's going to come down to what the wind and weather is looking like. I know Josh in the 4th quarter of the Monday night game showed that he could throw the ball through that wind and maintain, but it's something to consider. I think it gives the Patriots the edge on the defensive side because they don't have to respect the vertical game or the deep intermediate game as much. But I could see, especially if the elements are favorable, the Bills spread out New England, take advantage. They're going to pivot to the run game a little. They're going to try and keep New England honest. But then obviously if that's the case, then Devin Singletary has to be on the field, or maybe they get creative and go 5 wide, motion McKenzie into the backfield, give him some runs like we've seen them do in the past. But I expect to see a lot of things from Dable to keep this Patriots defense off balance and not allow them to clue into anything and be able to key too much. Oh, Ron said, great show, Ant. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Where are we going? Ooh, awesome comment from Michael. Good friend of the show. A person I've met in real life who's fantastic. What's up, Mike? How you doing? Michael says, don't let Josh Allen off the hook, too. He has control of the line of scrimmage, too. I think that's fair. A decent amount of the struggles, as much as we all love Josh Allen and he's had a tremendous year, there are some things that lay at his feet when it comes to the inefficiency of this offense and some of the slumps that we've seen this offense have, whether it's inaccuracy on throws, whether it's misreads or missing open guys or not getting to his progressions properly. Some of that also obviously falls onto the offensive line and protection up front and him having to get off timing and have to play off script to make things work. But yeah, Josh Allen has the most control. You know, he has the ball in his hands on every single play, one way or the other. And so it's never holistically one person's fault or one unit's fault or one specific thing that you can blame an entire, failure upon. It's a little bit of everyone and everything, and Josh is definitely included in that. Well said, Michael. Well said. Oh, comment here from Silas. This week is an excellent time for Coach Frazier to get creative with his pre-snap looks. Bills are very creative in that regard. A lot of disguised coverage, no pun intended, spinning those safeties down, dropping them back, making it look like single high, and then it's 2, making it look like 2, and then it's 1. Coming down and running different robber concepts, whether, I cover 1 robber, even 2 robber at times, and flexing out of the types of 2 high coverages and single, everything they do. They are well-versed in disguising and hiding things. And I think you will see some creativity out of Frazier in this game, all the way to playing around the box, simulated pressures, creepers, all that stuff, dropping Gregory Rousseau or Mario Addison into coverage and bringing Tremaine Edmonds and Taron Johnson, things like that. I think you'll see that. Anything and everything to take advantage of Mac Jones. Just off the top of my head, I know Miami did some of those things and were able to take advantage of misreads by Mac Jones. So, yeah, I do expect to see some creativity in that regard. What else? What else? Ba, ba, ba. Cameron says, do you think Jake Kummerow plays? Yes. He is. Oh, Michael also said, yeah, he's a key special teamer. I expect to see him. Also, he's good in some of those bigger looks and heavier looks. He can do some receiver stuff, but he's also a good blocker. He's a physical presence, so I expect to see that. But yeah, just on the special teams, he'll definitely play and be active. Comment here from Michael. It'll be up to the O-line to hold up if they go spread, especially Dawkins and Brown versus Judon. Yes, a lot of what Matt Judon did in week 16 was that contain rush, that muddle rush. He didn't really do a lot of just straight pin your ears back and attack. I think that's still a concern, especially against Spencer Brown. I think Spencer Brown had a much better year than anyone anticipated. I didn't even expect him to play this year. I thought if he was thrust into duty, it would be because there was an apocalypse on the offensive line. And I guess there kind of was, injuries, and Cody Ford doesn't look good, and Williams didn't look good at right tackle, and he was kind of thrust into the starting role, and now he's there, but he's still extremely raw. He's still extremely young, doesn't have a ton of college snaps under his belt, doesn't have a ton of 11-on-11 football playing experience. He played 8-on-8 football in high school, and then he went to the University of Northern Iowa, really only had one huge year of starts under his belt with over 900 snaps. The other, several years combined was maybe like 400, 500. So he doesn't have a ton of experience, doesn't have a ton of reps. He's raw, he's green, he's got a lot to work on. If Judon is isolated on him, and it's just one-on-one situations and scenarios, I combine that into scenarios. If in those situations, yeah, I think it's advantage Patriots because Judon versus Brown is a mismatch. But Brown's going to have to hold up, and as will Dawkins. Judon's a terror. They got guys up front who can play. The offensive line's going to have to hold up in a variety of things. What else? What else? What else? I think that's going to start to... I think that's going to wind it down here. Oh, I got some more. Oh, Jason says, love the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jason. You're here every week. I really, really appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. Comment here from Silas. The Robert concept will be key in turning Mac over. He's trying to get rid of the ball by read too. Oh. Comment here from DH. I predict Gabe Davis, if fully healthy, to have a monster game. He would draw some attention from Mills, which we like to take advantage of for sure. Copy that. A thanks, bro. Good show from Cameron. Appreciate that. Steven says, great show, and go Bills. Appreciate that. And I think, I like this comment from Cameron as well. Gabe is fine. I think the balance of Beasley and McKenzie needs to be a thing. Yeah, I think Isaiah McKenzie needs to be in this offense. The idea of the speed element that he brings and the yards after catch ability, in addition to the explosion and burst and the creativity that he affords this offense with the variety of looks he can be used in. Yes, the balance of Beasley and McKenzie needs to be a thing. I will say, though, if Cole Beasley is healthy, which I'm hoping he is, I'm thinking he is around this time, he's still one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. They don't do the same thing. Don't confuse the two. Don't think like, oh, man, Isaiah McKenzie can easily replace Cole Beasley. They don't do the same thing at all. And what Beasley does, McKenzie doesn't do. And what McKenzie can do, Beasley really can't. He doesn't have that long speed like that to win on those deep overs, but his ability to leverage coverage on those option routes and those choice routes, in addition to beating man coverage around the line of scrimmage and in the short and intermediate, Beasley's still elite at that. And I think we need to see that balance as well. I think that's a very, very, very good thought there. I'm going to throw up the banner here for a toodles, you guys, because we're going to start to wind down here and start to say goodbye. This episode was fantastic. Bruce Nolan, as always, phenomenal. Every time he's been on the show, he's been on so much throughout the year and a half at this point that I've been doing disguise coverage for Cover One. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, our schedules don't mesh that well this year because I'm on Wednesdays at 7. What his schedule looks like, it doesn't mesh the best, but he was able to make some time and took some time, literally fit me into his busy schedule. So many, many, many thanks to Mr. Bruce Nolan. Always deserves a follow. His Twitter handle is in the episode, it was up earlier, and he told you all where to find it. So go follow Bruce. He's a phenomenal follow on Twitter. Check out the Bruce exclusive and Food for Thought. He's fantastic. You guys were also fantastic. The live chat was jumping. There's literally so many comments. I can't get to everything, and I apologize to anyone whose comment I did not get to. If you got something that you really thought was gold or you really want to ask, get at me on Twitter at @pro__ant. That's pro 2_ANT. I wish that I could have gotten to every single comment tonight, but we probably would be here for another legitimately like 2 to 3 hours with how many comments are coming through. You guys are phenomenal. I love these live streams because of that. Appreciate you, Andrew. Thank you for saying thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, awesome comment here from Silas. Silas says, great show as usual. Can't wait for the next film breakdown. Eric Turner and I will be in the film room tomorrow night, Silas, and that episode will be going up. Join us. We got a new format that we're cooking up for tomorrow night. It's going to be a great one. So thank you very much for that, Silas. And yeah, thank you all you guys for being here live. And if you weren't here live, that's fine. If you're watching this later, listening to this later, thank you so much. I say it every week, and I know it probably sounds corny at this point. I am tremendously thankful for any and every single listener, watcher of this show. I appreciate you guys more than you will ever know. Please like this video. Again, it's corny, but it goes a long way. Please rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage. I see people asking me for predictions. I am way too superstitious to do predictions. I respect you, Silas. I do not do predictions. I'm way too superstitious. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. But all jokes aside, I'm very superstitious. And I know some people asked me for some predictions earlier. Yeah, I don't do predictions. Can't do it. And awesome. No, I hate bringing up these. I say corny a lot. I think this is corny for me to bring these up, but they mean a lot to me and hit me right in my heart. DH says, thanks for the show, my guy. You kill it. I appreciate it. Devin says, great stuff as always. And I appreciate you guys, again, more than you will ever know. Please rate and review and subscribe to Disguised Coverage, to Cover One as a whole. Turn on your alerts and notifications. Please drop a like for this video. Tell all your family and friends and loved ones how awesome the show is and how fantastic I am. And if you think the show is terrible and you think I'm terrible, that's fine. Tell your enemies and try and ruin their day with how horrible I am, because that works. Word of mouth, all good stuff. All press is good press and all that kind of thing. Big week this week. I'm super anxious and nervous. I've had trouble focusing. I've had trouble sleeping. I need Saturday to be here, and I am praying and hoping and wanting a massive Bills win and playoffs. We're in the end game now. Survive in advance, sudden death, all that type of stuff. It's a big game. This was a big episode. Everybody riding with me live was fantastic. Bruce Nolan was fantastic. Dawn is here. Dawn says, by the way, the tree is good. Thank you. And the baby tree is good too. She says, thank you. My wife will appreciate that. We went with some gold in the tree because it's the new year, January. So this is how the tree will look until the tree comes down, that little bit of gold. And then the big tree will go away until next Christmas. I see Spin. I see your comment. No, I got another tree for Christmas. You should have noticed that. I've had it for over a month now. Bigger tree, Christmas tree. That tree will go away at the end of January. And then the little tree will go back to its spot over there and have its home where I'll decorate it with different garland and things like that for every single month. Because that little tree will stay up all year round. And then this one will be special for around Christmas time and holidays. Good stuff. I appreciate you guys. Big week. Try and stay calm. Stay informed. Get some water and an IV and a bathroom break and some food, whatever you need. We got the Cover One preview show with Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn coming right back at you at 9 o'clock tonight. Myself and Eric Turner are live in the Cover One film room tomorrow night. That is going to be an absolute must-see based on the film that we have broken down and we're going to share with you guys. We have a Cover One playoff extravaganza episode on Friday. And then the Bills game is Saturday night. You'll have the Cover One postgame show with myself, Greg Thompson, Aaron Quinn, immediately following that Bills game on Saturday. And I wish everybody the best. Stay calm. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones all stay well and are doing well and stay safe. Take care of one another. I will see you next week. And as always, go Bills.